Before the stories begin, I would like to thank all of you for clicking on this video. Without the faithful fans, we as creators could not do this. I truly hope you enjoyed the upcoming stories. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for future stories to come. The night was thick with darkness, swallowing the world whole, as if it hungered for every glimmer of light. A lone woman named Sarah found herself driving along a desolate back road, the only soul in sight for miles. The hum of her car engine provided a comforting rhythm, a steady companion in the vast expanse of the night. But as the road stretched on, a sense of unease began to creep into her mind. Sarah glanced at the clock on her dashboard, the numbers mocking her with their relentless advance towards midnight. She had promised herself she wouldn't be out this late, yet here she was, alone on a road that seemed to lead nowhere. The trees loomed over her like silent sentinels. The darkness pressed in from all sides, suffocating and oppressive. She tried to shake off the feeling of dread, but it clung to her like a shroud. Then, without warning, her car sputtered and died, the engine coughing its final breath. Panic seized Sarah as she coasted to a stop on the side of the road. She pounded her fists against the steering wheel, cursing her bad luck. "Please, not now," she whispered. Alone in the darkness, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of what could be lurking beyond the veil of shadows. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed for help. But there was no signal. With a heavy sigh, Sarah grabbed her purse and stepped out into the chilly night air. The darkness enveloped her like a tangible force, wrapping around her like a lover's embrace turned sinister. She shivered, a cold sweat breaking out on her skin. As she opened the hood of her car, a sense of vulnerability washed over her. She was alone and stranded. Every creak of the forest, every whisper of the wind sent a shiver down her spine. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes nearby caused Sarah to freeze. Her heart hammered in her chest as she strained to see through the darkness. Was it just the wind? Or was there something out there? "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no response, only the echo of her own fear reverberating through the night. With a nervous gulp, Sarah went to the back of her car, her hands fumbling with the tools in her trunk. She prayed for a miracle, a simple fix that would get her back on the road to safety. But as she worked, the feeling of being watched intensified. Every snap of a twig, every hoot of an owl, sent a jolt of fear coursing through her veins. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being hunted, that something nefarious lurked just beyond her line of sight. Minutes stretched into hours as Sarah wrestled with the stubborn engine. Sweat mingled with tears on her brow as frustration threatened to consume her. Just when she thought she couldn't take another moment of uncertainty, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance. Relief flooded through Sarah as a car pulled up behind hers, its engine purring. A man stepped out of the car, his silhouette framed by the glow of his headlights. "Need some help?" he called out, his voice a beacon of hope in the darkness. Sarah nodded, her voice choked with emotion. "Please, anything you can do." The man approached her car, his features obscured by the shadows. He muttered to himself as he inspected the engine, his hands swiftly working to diagnose the problem. "It looks like your alternator's shot," he said finally, his voice calm and reassuring. "I can give you a lift into town, get you some help, Relief flooded through Sarah as she accepted the man's offer. She gathered her things and climbed into his car, the warmth of the interior a stark contrast to the chill of the night. As they drove, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about her rescuer. His eyes flickered in the darkness, his smile too wide, too knowing. But she pushed aside her doubts, focusing instead on the promise of safety that lay ahead. But as they approached the town, Sarah's heart sank. The streets were deserted, the buildings dark and foreboding. There was no sign of life, no welcoming glow to guide her home. "Where is everyone?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man's smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too predatory. "They're all asleep," he said, his voice dripping with malice. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. She was at the mercy of a stranger whose intentions were anything but benevolent. Panic clawed at her throat as she fumbled for the door handle, desperate to escape. But it was too late. The man's hand shot out, gripping her arm with a strength that contradicted his slender frame. His eyes gleamed with a hunger that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "You're not going anywhere," he hissed, his voice a sinister whisper inside the confines of the car. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah fought back, clawing at her captor with a ferocity born of desperation. She screamed for help, her voice a primal cry in the night. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance. The man's grip faltered as the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. With a curse, he released Sarah and fled into the night, disappearing into the darkness like a ghost. Tears streamed down her face as she collapsed to the ground just outside of the captor's vehicle, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. The police arrived moments later, their presence a beacon of salvation in the darkness. They wrapped Sarah in a blanket and offered her words of comfort, their voices a soothing balm to her frayed nerves. Once Sarah had been comforted, the police began to search for the suspect in the woods. After searching for what seemed like hours, they captured the man guilty of kidnapping Sarah. As she watched the man being led away in handcuffs, Sarah felt a sense of closure wash over her. She had faced a night of terror, and ultimately came out unscathed. During the events that unfolded, Sarah's car had been fixed by a local mechanic that had been notified by police. They dropped her off once a statement had been taken. After settling into her car, buckling up and starting the engine, Sarah breathed a massive sigh of relief. She vowed never to drive this late again, at night, alone. Thank you for staying this long, and now on to the next story. The night air was filled with anticipation and excitement as the Smith family embarked on the annual get-together at John's grandparents' house for Christmas. He was driving with his wife Emily by his side and their two children, Sarah and Ethan, in the back seat. The car was filled with the warmth of holiday cheer, the promise of family reunions and festive celebrations ahead. They navigated the winding roads beneath the blanket of stars. John glanced in the rearview mirror, his brow furrowing at the sight of a car following them at a distance. It seemed innocuous at first, just another vehicle on the road. But as the miles stretched on, the car remained a constant presence in their rearview mirror, never straying too far behind. "Do you think they're lost?" Emily asked. John shook his head, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "I don't know, Em, but something doesn't feel right." Sarah and Ethan exchanged nervous glances from the back seat, their excitement tempered by the growing sense of unease. They had heard the stories of strangers on the road, and now, faced with the reality of a car following them, their fears began to take root. The road stretched out before them like a ribbon of asphalt, twisting and turning through the darkness. John pressed down on the accelerator, hoping to put some distance between them and their unknown pursuer. But no matter how fast they drove, the car remained a constant presence in their rearview mirror, a silent specter haunting their journey. John's heart raced with adrenaline as he struggled to come up with a plan. "We need to lose them," he said, his voice low and urgent. "Hold on tight, everyone." With a flick of his wrist, John veered off the main road onto a winding dirt path, the car bouncing and jolting with each turn. Sarah and Ethan held on to each other, their eyes wide with fear as they clung to the back seat. The unknown car followed suit, its headlights cutting through the darkness like a predator on the hunt. John gritted his teeth, his hands gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. He couldn't let them catch up, couldn't let them harm his family. As the chase intensified, John's mind raced with thoughts of escape. With a burst of determination, John turned off the dirt path onto a narrow trail obscured by overgrown brush. The car lurched and groaned as it navigated the rough terrain, branches scraping against the windows like ghostly fingers. But still, the unknown car followed, its headlights like twin beacons of malice in the darkness. John's heart sank as he realized they were running out of options, running out of time. "We have to get help," Emily said, her voice trembling with fear. "We can't keep running like this." John nodded, his jaw set with determination. "We just have to keep heading to my grandparents' house. Maybe we can call for help there." With renewed resolve, John pressed down on the accelerator, the engine roaring to life as they raced through the night. The unknown car followed close behind, its presence a constant reminder of the danger that lurked behind them. Minutes stretched into hours as they charged forwards, the road twisting and turning beneath their tires. John's grandparents' house loomed in the distance, a beacon of hope in the night. But as they approached, John's heart sank. The house was dark and silent, its windows shuttered against the cold. There was no sign of life, no welcoming glow. "They're not here," Emily whispered, her voice choked with tears. John's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he scanned the empty driveway, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. They were alone, vulnerable, at the mercy of their unknown pursuer. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was John's grandfather, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of a lantern. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. John explained everything, the car following them, the chase through the woods, the desperate race to reach safety. His grandfather listened in silence, his expression grave. "We need to get inside," he said, his voice firm. "I'll explain everything once we're safe." With his grandfather's help, they hurried inside the house, bolting the door behind them against the encroaching darkness. John's grandmother greeted them with open arms, her eyes filled with worry. "What's happening, Grandpa?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling with fear. John's grandfather sighed, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "It's a long story, but there are people out there who would do anything to get what they want. We need to stay vigilant and stay together." And so they huddled together inside the house, their hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. Outside, the unknown car prowled like a beast in the night. But as the hours passed and dawn broke over the horizon, the car disappeared, leaving behind only the echoes of a chase that had come to an end. The Smith family breathed a collective sigh of relief, their ordeal finally over. As they sat down to breakfast with their grandparents, the warmth of the fire crackling in the hearth, John couldn't help but feel grateful for the safety of their home. As they exchanged gifts and shared stories of holidays past, the memory of the chase faded into the background, replaced by the joy and laughter of Christmas morning. For in the end, it was not the event that defined them, but the love and strength of family that carried them through.